Hello everyone, my name's Ellie. I must start by giving you a trigger warning because my story does involve some abuse. I won't go into a lot of detail, but I will mention some instances to show you what my mother-in-law put me through. I still regret the day I married Jake, my now ex-husband. Initially, I thought Jake was a good man from a respected family. His mother, Chrissy, worked at a charitable foundation, and his father, Xavier, was a successful businessman. They seemed like a great family, and I was happy to be a part of it. However, everything changed after I married Jake. Chrissy, my mother-in-law, became increasingly abusive towards me. It started with small things like hiding my belongings, glasses, phone, and purse, and laughing as I searched anxiously for them. She would also ask me to handle hot pots that would burn me, and once she even mixed shrimp juice into a dish knowing I was allergic, causing me to miss an important event. She would make me cook for hours only to throw everything on the floor. Whenever confronted, she denied any wrongdoing or claimed it was accidental. After enduring months of this mistreatment, I finally confronted Chrissy and sought help from Jake. "You need to tell me what your problem is, Chrissy," I pleaded. "I'm tired of your behavior. I know you've been intentionally trying to hurt and embarrass me." Chrissy responded defensively, "What are you talking about, Ellie? How could you accuse me of something like that? Are you jealous of me or something?" Frustrated, I retorted, "Why would I be jealous of you? You're a psycho who enjoys hurting me for no reason." Jake, instead of supporting me, brushed off my concerns. "Ellie, don't be so dramatic. My mother is a respected lady. She works at a charitable foundation. She would never do anything to hurt you." Feeling betrayed by Jake's indifference to my suffering, I realized Chrissy had manipulated him too, hiding her actions and pretending innocence. It was shocking that he blamed me for accusing his mother despite knowing about her deliberate actions against me. I was horrified to hear what he said. "Jake, you need to do something about your mom. What she's been doing to me is borderline abusive. You've seen how she intentionally makes food with ingredients I'm allergic to, and she doesn't even tell me." "You're being ridiculous, Ellie," Jake replied firmly. "Mom would never do something like that. It's all in your head. She's been telling me you're jealous of her. I can see what's happening." "What the hell, Jake? You know your mother has been tampering with my food, adding allergens to it. You know more than that," I exclaimed, feeling bewildered by his defense of her. "Yet you're taking her side?" I couldn't comprehend why Jake, who had always loved and cared for me, was now dismissing my concerns about his mother. It felt like a sudden betrayal. I stared at him in disbelief, trying to make sense of his change in attitude. That's when his mother interjected. "Jake, your wife is crossing all limits," she declared coldly. "If she continues this behavior, we may have to kick her out. I always knew she was unworthy of our family, and now she's proving it. If you want to support your wife, you can leave as well. That will help us decide better what to do with your inheritance." "And Mom, Ellie is just upset right now. I don't support her at all," Jake quickly responded, trying to appease his mother. "I promise she'll behave herself. If not, you can kick her out. I won't mind. I always knew you were the reasonable one, Mom. Thank God you can see past this." I was stunned. Jake was blatantly choosing his mother's side, denying my experiences and blaming me for the tension. It became clear to me why he was acting this way. You see, Jake and I were living with his parents because that's what they wanted. He worked for his father's company and was financially dependent on his dad. He hoped to inherit his father's assets, and upsetting his mother could jeopardize that. It was evident that my husband was more concerned about securing his future inheritance than protecting me. "What the hell is wrong with you, Ellie? Are you trying to get us kicked out or something?" Jake snapped at me later when we were alone. "Seriously, Jake, that's all you have to say after I told you about your mom's abuse? What kind of husband are you?" I cried out in frustration. "The kind that knows how to secure his future," Jake replied coldly. "You're insane, Ellie. You can't just expect me to accuse my mom of such things and drag me into your problems. If she gets mad at me, do you think she'll let Dad give me my inheritance?" "Is your inheritance more important than your wife, Jake?" I asked, tears welling up in my eyes. "We don't need anything. Let's leave and buy our own house. It may be smaller, but it will be ours, and no one can abuse me there," I pleaded. "Don't be ridiculous, Ellie. We could never afford a house like this." "I'm not going anywhere. You'll put up with my mom and stop complaining," Jake asserted firmly. "If you don't, I'm sure my mom will kick you out. Don't come crying to me because I won't help you." And at that moment, I realized the truth. When I realized my marriage was over, Jake betrayed me in the worst possible way. He wasn't the man I thought he was. Feeling helpless, I watched as Chrissy escalated her abusive tactics, now assured Jake wouldn't intervene. I felt lost, wanting to flee and leave it all behind. But I refused to let Chrissy get away with her cruelty, and devised a plan to expose her. Accessing the house's security footage covertly, I compiled undeniable evidence of Chrissy's abuse against me into a video. I bided my time, waiting for Chrissy's upcoming birthday celebration, where Xavier and guests would be present. That day became my deadline, my moment to confront her. On Chrissy's birthday, she played the gracious hostess, behaving impeccably, likely because of the guests. I played along, biding my time until after the cake was cut. Stating before everyone, I made a calm announcement. "Thank you all for joining us to celebrate my dear mother-in-law, Chrissy," I began. "I'm sure many of you know what a sweet and caring woman she appears to be. Today, on her birthday, I thought it fitting to share a glimpse of the real Chrissy." Without further ado, I directed everyone's attention to a screen where I had prepared a video compilation. "Please enjoy this video I've put together to honor our dear birthday girl," I said as I played the footage. Prepared for any backlash, I had friends on standby, ready to support me if needed. After enduring years of Chrissy's abuse, I had reached my breaking point. I no longer cared about her or Jake. I was done. As the video played, the room fell silent. Guests watched in horror and disbelief as the truth about Chrissy unfolded before their eyes. Chrissy and Jake stood in stunned silence, while Xavier's expression betrayed deep reflection. In that moment, I knew I had taken a stand against my monstrous mother-in-law, exposing her deceit to everyone present. I didn't blame Jake. He had been away for days and unaware of what had been happening. When the video ended, it was my father-in-law, Xavier, who broke the silence. "What the hell did I just watch, Chrissy?" he demanded. "It's not what it looks like, Xavier. These videos are fabricated, taken out of context," Chrissy hurriedly replied. Xavier's voice remained firm. "Oh really, Chrissy? They don't look fabricated to me. Are you suggesting my daughter-in-law went to the lengths of doctoring videos just to humiliate you?" "Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying, Xavier," Chrissy insisted. "Ellie is doing this out of malice. I don't know how she managed to manipulate those videos. I would never do something like this." Chrissy's casual lies infuriated me. She was attempting to convince everyone that a year of abuse documented in my video was entirely fabricated. I couldn't believe she might still deceive people after exposing her antics. I calmly responded, "So now you want to blame me for tarnishing your image, Chrissy? Let's settle this then. Let's call the police and let them decide if these videos are fabricated." "Nonsense, Ellie. The police won't entertain baseless accusations from a liar like you," Chrissy retorted confidently. "Are you sure about that, Chrissy?" I challenged. "You were just claiming ignorance of your illegal actions. Let's call the cops and find out." Chrissy looked panicked at the prospect. She hadn't anticipated being confronted like this. Meanwhile, I noticed some of Chrissy's friends, colleagues from the charitable foundation where she worked, giving her disapproving looks while typing on their phones. They seemed to be reporting what they witnessed at the party. Chrissy continued to plead her innocence to Xavier. "Xavier, do you hear her? She's threatening to involve the police. Ellie is trying to get me into trouble. She's delusional." Xavier's expression hardened. "Jake, care to explain what you were doing while your wife was being abused under my roof?" "Dad, it's not as bad as it looks," Jake interjected nervously. "Mom is a caring mother-in-law." "Seriously, Jake? Is this how a caring mother-in-law behaves?" Xavier challenged. "Are you out of your mind? Ellie showed you proof, and you still defend your mother." Realizing the gravity of the situation, Xavier addressed everyone present. "Wait a minute. Ellie told Jake about the abuse, and he did nothing." The room fell silent as the realization sank in. No one had expected Jake to know the truth and fail to protect his wife. It became evident that Jake's priorities were tied more to his inheritance and living in a luxurious mansion than standing up for his wife. Zaire, a man of morals and ethics, was visibly furious at his son's betrayal. "I didn't marry Jake for his father's fortune or to live in a grand mansion. I married him out of love," I declared, my voice steady with resolve. "But it's clear that Jake has different priorities." Xavier stepped forward, his expression reflecting disappointment and anger. It was clear he wouldn't tolerate Chrissy's behavior any longer. When I told Xavier that I had informed Jake about the abuse, he refused to believe me. Jake had always dismissed my concerns, accusing me of overreacting and defending Chrissy. He insisted he couldn't risk upsetting her because it might jeopardize our stay in the house. "Why didn't you come to me sooner, Ellie?" Xavier asked, his voice heavy with regret. "I needed to gather proof," I explained. "I knew no one would believe me without it." "We all believe you, Ellie. I'm so sorry this happened to you," Xavier sighed. "I'm sorry I failed to raise my son right. As for Chrissy, you can call the cops on her. I won't interfere." "How could you say that, Xavier? You would let her call the cops on their own wife?" Chrissy protested. "My life will be ruined?" "Xavier, our reputation will be ruined," Jake added urgently. "You can't support this." "Shut your mouths," Xavier's voice thundered. "After what you've done, you have no right to tell me how to act. And don't call me family. Abusers and enablers can never be my family. As for my reputation, it will remain intact. I will divorce Chrissy and disinherit Jake as soon as possible. I want no ties with monsters like you two." Chrissy and Jake were stunned by Xavier's decisive words. They had assumed they could spin the situation to make me look like the villain, but the crowd's cheers made it clear that no one believed them. Chrissy's friends had already left, pledging their support to me and promising to hold Chrissy accountable in their own way. As Chrissy and Jake pleaded with Xavier, insisting he reconsider, he remained resolute. "Ellie's words are backed by proof. She didn't just tell me the truth, she showed it to me. Unlike my spineless son here, I intend to do what's right by Ellie." "Dad, I'm sorry," Jake finally admitted. "I should have listened to Ellie. Believe me, Dad, I had no idea Mom was capable of." "I showed you proof once, Jake," I interrupted, my voice steady with resolve. "But you chose to do nothing. You didn't want to risk your inheritance." Xavier's decision was final, and Chrissy and Jake realized they couldn't change his mind. Their attempts to manipulate the situation have failed, and now they face the consequences of their actions. "I don't even know what I ever saw in you. It's ironic that your father cares more about me than you," I remarked bitterly. "If you hadn't supported me today, Xavier, I don't know what I would have done," I continued, feeling grateful for Xavier's backing. "I support you wholeheartedly, Ellie. My foolish son doesn't deserve you, and he certainly doesn't deserve the inheritance he covets so badly," Xavier asserted firmly. "It's only right that I disinherit him." "Dad, no, you can't do this to me," Jake pleaded desperately. "I'm your son." "Don't call me Dad, Jake. I'm done being an ATM to two useless people who contribute nothing but misery to this world," Xavier retorted. "Since you've become as greedy and deceitful as your mother, you can leave with her after our divorce. There will be no home for you here anymore." "You're not serious about this, Xavier," Chrissy interjected, her voice trembling. "You're just saying this to hurt me. We've been together for almost 3 decades. "Yes, we have been together that long," Xavier acknowledged coldly. "But I never imagined my own wife could be so vile and monstrous. After today, I want nothing to do with you." Chrissy stood frozen, stunned into silence, while Jake sobbed and begged Xavier for forgiveness. It struck me profoundly how today's events laid bare their true priorities. They cared only for wealth and reputation, not for the person they had abused for a year. I felt disgusted by the man I once called my husband. He was more upset about losing his inheritance than realizing the extent of my suffering. Chrissy began crying and pleading with Xavier, not to me, but to him. "Xavier, please, I know I made a mistake. It won't happen again. Please don't take such a drastic step without thinking." "Dad, Mom is right. We messed up, but we'll make it right," Jake added, his voice choked with tears. "We're ashamed of ourselves. This will be a wake-up call for me. Please forgive us." "You have some nerve asking for forgiveness," Xavier responded bitterly. "You haven't even apologized to Ellie, the main victim here. You're apologizing to me because I have the power to leave you bankrupt and homeless. Not once have you shown remorse or apologized to her for your despicable actions." Xavier's words echoed my own feelings of betrayal and neglect. He saw through their insincerity, recognizing their desperation to avoid losing everything they had. As soon as Xavier pointed out their hypocrisy, Chrissy and Jake began bombarding me with apologies. Their gestures felt so fake and desperate that I recoiled, feeling as though their mere touch would pollute me further. I wanted those monsters nowhere near me anymore. "Don't bother with your fake apologies anymore. I know you're only sorry because you got caught and are facing consequences," I stated firmly. "I'm not the doormat who entered this family a year ago. I see through your facades." Ellie, please, Chrissy pleaded, her voice quivering. I should have protected you. I'm so sorry I didn't. We love each other. We can move past this. We're family. Yes, we're family, I responded with bitter irony. I'm sorry, Chrissy, but I can't accept your apology. Your idea of a perfect family involves abusing your daughter-in-law. That's not something I'm willing to overlook. I was such a bad mother-in-law, Chrissy continued, attempting to salvage the situation. I promise I'll get help. I'll change. Please forgive us. Let's go back to being a family. I couldn't help but laugh. You must be delusional if you think I consider you family. You're nothing but leeches. Your apologies mean nothing. You're only here because your future is at stake. Well, I don't forgive you. Don't do this, Ellie, Jake pleaded desperately. I did what I did to protect us. I love you. You let your mom torture me because you wanted to secure our future. I shot back, my voice steady with resolve. I told you countless times we don't need your parents' money. I wanted us to leave, to get away from your evil mother, but greed kept you here, overlooking everything she did. I'm divorcing you, Jake, I declared firmly. That's final, and I'll be going after half of your assets. You'll pay for enabling your mother. Jake and Chrissy were stunned into silence, their pleading and apologies falling on deaf ears. They continued crying, but I was done listening. I called my friends, who swiftly gathered my belongings and drove me away from that toxic household. Jake tried to intervene, but one stern word from Xavier shut him down. Chrissy's pleas were equally ignored. I didn't need to involve the police with the video evidence. Xavier's actions spoke volumes. He kicked them out of the house, leaving them to beg at my friend's doorstep for shelter. Xavier had an ironclad prenup, ensuring Chrissy received nothing. Her friends at the charitable foundation exposed her actions, resulting in her dismissal. Jake lost his job at his father's company, along with any hope of a substantial inheritance. Chrissy had the audacity to appeal to me for help, claiming we were family. I promptly kicked them out and threatened a restraining order if they ever contacted me again. In the months that followed, I settled into my own place, having rented a small flat. The divorce was finalized smoothly, with Jake relinquishing assets he had once believed secure. He worked two jobs now, supporting a mother who refused to work. Once, Jake called me to complain about his circumstances, hinting he wanted to come back. I laughed and hung up, relishing the irony that he now faced the consequences of his actions. It was a long road to vengeance, but I no longer needed to actively pursue it. I was living well, and so was Xavier. As for Jake and Chrissy, they were reaping what they had sown, a heavy dose of karma for their years of abuse and manipulation. That good-for-nothing wife. Just ditch that woman before we get into real trouble. I overheard my husband Brad and his mother say as they thought I was asleep. Their attitudes had completely changed. They left home, but shamelessly returned, claiming they didn't want to lose their assets, and began causing chaos. When I confronted them with the reality of our situation, their true colors showed. My name is Daisy. I'm 30 years old. After dating Brad for 5 years, we got engaged and moved in with his parents. Initially, we agreed to buy our own house when we had our first child. Nearly 2 years have passed without a child, and we're still living with his parents. Living with Brad, his mother, and his younger brother, I often became a subject of concern for those around me. My parents lived far away and couldn't help, but my husband was always kind, and I had a good relationship with my mother-in-law, which made me happy. One day, I had an accident and broke a bone, ending up hospitalized and unable to move on my own. At first, my husband and mother-in-law visited me daily, showing their concern, but soon, their visits dwindled to once a week. Despite being grateful for their visits, my world shattered when I overheard their conversation after the doctor informed me I might have lasting injuries. She can't do housework or anything, but she's going to cost us more than ever. What a useless wife, Brad sneered. With her lingering issues, having kids is even more out of the question. Maybe it's a good thing we don't have kids. If she stays bedridden, I'll have to do all the housework and care for her. I didn't sign up for this, he continued. I didn't either, his mother chimed in. She was supposed to do the housework and caregiving. If she hadn't gotten into that accident, she could have continued as our maid. What a disappointment. Before this becomes too troublesome, get rid of her. I'll divorce her quickly, Brad agreed. Thinking I was asleep, they had this conversation in my hospital room. To them, I was nothing more than a maid and caregiver. Their attitudes became blatantly cold afterward. Your husband hardly comes anymore, does he? He must be searching for a new woman. Only you had a child, you might have kept him, my mother-in-law taunted. As Brad's visits became even less frequent, she seemed to take pleasure in saying nasty things. However, my brother-in-law stepped up. He did the laundry, checked if I needed anything, and was generally very helpful. He visited me nearly every day and even took me outside in my wheelchair, providing a small comfort in an otherwise painful time. When I felt suffocated by my long hospitalization, I was often exhausted from physical therapy and sometimes wanted to give up. But I think I've made it this far thanks to my brother-in-law. His presence was an immense help to me. Although I'm not getting worse and physical therapy is going well, it's still uncertain if there will be any lasting issues. When I told my husband and mother-in-law about this, they started arguing. Seriously? See, I told you we should have gotten rid of her sooner, my mother-in-law scoffed. What are you two even saying? Aren't you being too harsh on Daisy, who's been taking care of our house and our father all this time? My brother-in-law retorted. In reality, I had been caring for my father-in-law for 5 years while dating my husband. When we started dating, Brad's parents suggested, why don't you live together since you're going to get married anyway? It's a great deal. We can save money, live together, and then get married when we're settled, they added. When I hesitated, they reassured me, it's okay. We have plenty of rooms and we won't invade your privacy. Plus, you don't need to pay rent. You want to marry my son, right? How could I refuse? But in return, they had a favor to ask. Daisy, while you're working from home, can you look after a father who needs care? It's only for 4 to 5 hours during the day when I'm out for my part-time job, Brad's mother asked. We also have my brother, so the two of you can work together. My brother-in-law, who also worked from home, and I teamed up to take care of my father-in-law. My father-in-law and brother-in-law were very close. My father-in-law had a hobby of collecting furniture and even had a separate house just for it. My brother-in-law and I always enjoyed hearing about his hobby, and my father-in-law loved his caring son, Reagan. Eventually, my father-in-law's health began to decline, and after years of care, he passed away. After that, my husband proposed to me, saying, "Thank you for always taking care of my father. Let's continue to be together. Let's get married." Despite having worked hard on housework and caregiving, the moment I became immobile, my husband and mother-in-law's attitude changed as if I were worthless. Even I, normally composed, was infuriated. "Force me, please pay what you're supposed to," I demanded. "Well, I don't want any trouble, so I'll give you the house. Let's waive the division of other property," Brad conceded. I wondered if he would really give me the house, but since my father-in-law had left a substantial inheritance, it seemed plausible. The inheritance, divided among my mother-in-law, Brad, and Reagan, amounted to approximately $300,000 each, so Brad seemed to have enough assets. Reagan was tasked with handling all the paperwork with the executor, requiring several trips to the court, which was quite a hassle. "No way, we can't give away the house. If we divide the property, I'll lose half my savings," Brad protested. "It's just a wastefully large house in the countryside. Even if we give it away, it's not an issue. At the highest estimate, it's only worth about $100,000, and various fees will be deducted when we sell it. It's cheaper than losing half my savings," Reagan reasoned. "Well, if you say so, Brad, but what if she demands more later? What if rumors spread in the neighborhood because we abandoned her?" My mother-in-law worried. As they debated what to do with me, Reagan interrupted, "Then I'll take her in." "Why would you go out of your way to do that?" Brad asked suspiciously. "You've been interested in Daisy, haven't you? That's why you're so willing. You can have her if you want, but she's no longer of any use to us. Don't ask to take Daisy and the house back later, okay?" My mother-in-law sneered. "Why would I? I just hope you won't come asking for money later. And remember, you can't return damaged goods," Reagan replied sharply. Brad and Reagan signed the papers and arranged to formally change the property title through a lawyer. "I'll take out some money from my savings, so why don't you find a younger, healthier, and prettier woman to marry and build a better house?" Reagan suggested. "Sounds good," Brad agreed. Then he turned to me. "Hey Daisy, get a lawyer to file for our divorce quickly." They said they'd stay in a hotel for a while and left the room. Reagan and I silently saw them off. I had to find a lawyer to file for our divorce first. With Reagan's help, I filed for the divorce, and in a few days, Brad and I became complete strangers. A week later, Brad and my mother-in-law packed their belongings and left the house. It was strange that Reagan, Brad's brother, continued to visit me. Now that I've divorced your brother, there's no need for you to worry about your former sister-in-law, I told him. He responded, I'm doing this because I wanted to let you know that I didn't get along with you just because you were my brother's wife. We both provided care and did housework together. We've talked a lot more in these 7 years than you ever did with my brother. We're friends, aren't we? Reagan said with a gentle smile. All I could do was express my thanks and gratitude. A month later, I was discharged from the hospital. Although I had to visit for physical therapy, I felt relieved to be home after such a long time. Do you think those two will ever come back? I'm worried they might return and make me work again, I confided. If they come back, I'll drive them away. I can't forgive them for treating you so horribly. Plus, they have no right to return to this house, Reagan reassured me. I was still unable to move as before, so Reagan took care of most of the household chores. Fortunately, as I had been working from home as a freelancer, I was able to return to work and contribute financially. Thanks to the bi-weekly physical therapy, I recovered smoothly without any complications. A year later, I was able to live as before, and Reagan and I collaborated on the housework. We spent more time together, syncing our days off to go on trips. Just when I thought our peaceful days would continue, a storm suddenly came. One night, while Reagan and I were eating dinner, there was a knock on the door and the intercom rang repeatedly. Nervously, I answered, and the person on the monitor was Brad. Hey, open up, he demanded, thinking this noise might disturb the neighbors. I opened the front door, and Brad entered the house without hesitation. What do you want? I asked, irritated by his sudden appearance. Why do I have to put up with such an attitude just for coming home? This isn't your home anymore. State your business and leave quickly, I demanded. What are you talking about? I'll be living here again from today. Oh, I'm hungry. Hey Daisy, give me some food, Brad demanded, expecting me to serve him. Hey, cut it out. Why are you here? I asked, growing increasingly frustrated. Well, I've spent almost all my money, and my mom will be here soon too, so leave the door unlocked, he said casually. As I remained silent, he remarked, Oh, you're all healed up, huh? That's great. Let's get back together. You must have had a hard time without me. His audacity made me feel sick. Stop it. I divorced you. I don't care about you anymore, I snapped. Don't get cocky. You've been living on my money all this time, and you can't do anything but housework. Just shut up and do as I say, Brad shouted, his voice dripping with entitlement. Just then, the door opened, and his mother arrived. You left the door unlocked. That's careless. Oh, what's going on? She asked, noticing the tension. She's been getting cheeky, so I was giving her a bit of education. She's grown thick-skinned in the year we've been away, Brad explained casually, as if it were a normal occurrence. Once again, Brad and his mother began to make themselves at home as if it were the most natural thing in the world. Enough is enough. This isn't your home. I'm calling the police, I declared, fed up with their intrusion. Oh yeah, about that. This house was originally in your father's name, right? So that means that the heir, including my mother, makes our agreement null and void, doesn't it? Brad shouted, making an unreasonable claim. You promised to give me the house. If you're nullifying that, then everything about the division of property should be nullified as well. Give me half the savings, he demanded. Sure, but I don't have it anymore. Didn't I tell you earlier? I've squandered it all. I quit my job, spent it all on booze, fun, investments, you name it. I also have some debts with consumer finance, about $20,000, Brad confessed, shocking me with his recklessness. I guess, can you pay for me? Brad asked, catching me off guard. Initially, I thought he was lying, but his mother confirmed it. I can't lend you that much money, I replied, taken aback. I'm not asking you to lend it. I'm telling you to pay it, Brad demanded. I'm not giving you any money. I'm calling the police, I declared, feeling the surge of anger. As Reagan dialed the police to report the situation, Brad's demeanor shifted. You've become quite daring in the past year. You're just showing off because Daisy's here, he sneered. Brad began to wreak havoc in the house, breaking precious furniture that had been my father-in-law's keepsake. His mother joined in, destroying furniture and laughing as she did so. It's my father's and aunt's, I pleaded, horrified by their rampage. About 10 minutes later, when the police arrived, I explained the situation to them. "This is quite a mess. Let's hear your side of the story," the officer said. "What's wrong with me breaking things in my own house?" Brad retorted. "That's right, we're just crushing things we don't need." "What's the problem?" his mother added. When the police seemed unsure how to respond, Regan stepped in. "This house has never belonged to these two. It's under Daisy's name." "Huh? What kind of nonsense are you talking about?" Brad exclaimed. "Actually, before he passed away, our father-in-law left a will through a lawyer. Of course, you wouldn't know. You handed over what you were told and left the rest to Regan. So this house was yours from the beginning," Regan explained. As the truth sunk in, Brad and his mother stood dumbfounded. "So, this isn't your property, then?" the officer clarified. "Oh, hold on, but I'm her ex-husband. We're like family, so she'll forgive me, right?" Brad attempted to reason. "Don't make me laugh. You're a stranger once you're an ex. I don't even know that you were in contact with another woman before our divorce was finalized and who treated me like a maid if not you," I countered firmly. No, that's not what happened. I was just going along with what my mom said. She ordered me to do all this, Brad." "What are you saying? Your failed business, your failed relationships with young girls, your gambling debts, aren't these all you're doing?" his mother confessed, exposing his deceit. According to his mother, Brad had been trying to marry a young woman after our divorce, a revelation that left me stunned. He also quit his job to start his own business, but it failed in just a month. Even with money, Brad was rejected by the unemployed man and became reckless, going around playing and gambling, saying that he had money and could afford it. He had said that he had almost no money left, and it seemed that it was indeed nearly zero. "You brought this upon yourself. All this is Brad's fault, so at least forgive me." They both desperately pleaded, trying to shift the blame and groveling. This was truly ridiculous. "No, I won't forgive either of you. And this isn't something from the past, is it? You were treating me like a servant until a moment ago, right?" I retorted firmly. "Not leaving when I asked you to leave is illegal. And since the furniture collected by my late father-in-law is now mine, you'll need to compensate me for that," I demanded. But all right, we will compensate you. Just please don't get the police involved. You wouldn't want me to go to jail, would you?" Brad pleaded desperately. "I actually don't care at all. By the way, we're married," I revealed, shocking them both. It turned out I was married to my former brother-in-law, Regan. He was now my husband. "It hasn't even been a year, and you've moved on to another man, my own brother at that," Brad exclaimed in disbelief. "What are you talking about? You moved on before you were even divorced, didn't you? You wouldn't return Daisy to me, no matter how many times I asked." "Stop clinging to the past already," Regan countered, leaving Brad speechless. "I don't care anymore. I'll pay for whatever damages there are." "How much for my idiot husband's junk?" Regan asked, taking charge of the situation. "Well, if we calculate roughly about $100,000, I replied. "Ha! What?" Brad and his mother were shocked. The furniture that my father-in-law had collected was all high-end pieces made by famous designers. Brad and his mother, who had no interest in these items, seemed to have believed they were just junk, I explained. "You're going to compensate for what you've broken, right? We're not sure if we can get the same items, but make sure to pay properly," Regan asserted. Unable to afford such compensation, Brad and his mother were distraught. For the time being, the police took them away for trespassing and vandalism. Of course, I didn't forgive them and went ahead with the lawsuit. Afterwards, Brad and his mother, who were desperately seeking help from Regan, were bluntly rejected, with him saying, "I'm ashamed to even be related by blood." Brad and his mother were likely receiving their just desserts together. And there's one more thing I kept secret. My father-in-law told me to sell the house and use the money as I wish. Regan had told me that the price of the house was $100,000, but in reality, the document stated the value of the house around $500,000. It's a good location, so it might sell for a bit more. But for now, Regan and I decided to take it easy in the house my father-in-law left us with no plans to sell it. Eventually, we plan to sell the land and build a new house. I had some worries about having children, so after getting married to Regan, I went to the gynecologist for a checkup. But there were no issues with either Regan or me. Now, with the troublemakers gone, Regan and I are living happily together. My name is Scarlett. I didn't think I'd tell my story, but here I am with a wild tale about my mother-in-law. I'll change names to protect my daughter and me. My story doesn't start with a crazy mother-in-law. I married my high school sweetheart, Daniel, when we were young. Daniel worked at his dad's company, so we were settled early. His mom, Jenny, really liked me, and with his brother, Devin, we were a happy family. Sadly, Daniel's dad died when we were in school. I had great years with Daniel and his family. But then, tragedy struck. One day, Jenny called me at work crying and said, "Scarlett, I have terrible news. Daniel was in a car crash. He didn't make it." I was devastated. I couldn't believe it. My whole world fell apart. I was 5 months pregnant with our baby, Lily. It was a really tough time for me and Daniel's family. Jenny, his mom, struggled a lot with the sadness. She became fixated on me and the baby. She thought Lily was Daniel coming back. She kept saying Lily was her baby and tried to control everything about my pregnancy. Dealing with Jenny was really hard. She threatened me, saying I couldn't move on or leave with my baby. Lily is always going to be with me and Devin. I have already set up a nursery in my house. She will come live with me when she is born. Devin will be your dad. He is Daniel's brother, after all. Jenny, I know you're having a hard time dealing with Daniel's death. Trust me, I'm just as bad, but you can't control me like this. This is my child and not yours. How dare you say this to me? Lily is my child. I will do everything in my power to keep her with me. Don't you dare think you can take her away. As the days passed, Jenny became extremely unhinged. We tried having multiple family discussions about her behavior. We said, "You need to stop being so obsessed with Lily. This is very unhealthy. Mom, we are worried about you. You're acting very strangely. I think you should consider therapy. The only one you should worry about is Scarlett. I know this girl. She'll run away with a new man once the child is born. She'll take away Lily and raise her with someone else. Devin, you can't let her do this. She is your daughter too. Mom, you're not making any sense. Daniel is the father of Lily. A new man will not replace him. I'm her uncle, and that's it. I will be there for her, and so will you." But ultimately, she is Scarlett's daughter. Jenny never listened to us. From hosting a baby shower for herself to demanding presents in the delivery room, Jenny did a lot of things. Just thinking about everything makes me have a panic attack. Devin did his best to control his mother. However, she never improved. The first serious trouble she made was just after I gave birth. She came to my room and asked to hold the baby. When I handed her my daughter, she ran for the door. Luckily, Devin was outside and stopped her with some nurses. From that moment, I knew Jenny couldn't be around my daughter. So I filed the case against her and let the cops deal with her. I was at first hesitant to get a restraining order. I wanted Lily to know her grandma, so I put some boundaries and hoped for the best. Jenny crossed all of them. She tried to take my daughter away several times. She also tried to convince and demand Devin and his girlfriend to adopt Lily. They refused because they are actually the same people. Jenny also didn't like the fact that I was seeing someone when Lily was 2. The last straw came when she tried to take her away from daycare without my permission. We found that she had planned to move to a different state. I immediately confronted her in front of Devin. "What is wrong with you, Jenny? How many times do I have to tell you that you can't see my child without my permission? Even the courts are with me on this. Still, you keep trying to take her away. Lily is my child, and she deserves to be with me. I'll keep her with me until Devin and his girlfriend get married. Then we will be a happy family. You can go have a new child with your boyfriend, Mom. You can't say or do things like this. We have already told you that Lily belongs to Scarlett alone. If she marries again, Lily will have a father figure. You don't have to worry about her." No. This is Daniel's daughter. I won't let anyone else raise her. She is mine and mine only. Scarlett is nothing but a woman. I will take my Lily away from this witch. By that point, I was completely done with Jenny. She never showed any improvement and instead got worse with time. Now I was actually getting worried for Lily's safety, so I decided to file a restraining order against Jenny. I knew that the restraining order would make her go mad, so before she could do any more damage, I shifted to a different country. I took a transfer and left without telling anyone the address. Only Devin knew my address because he was dependable. Jenny's behavior did have a lasting impression on me. I was always paranoid that she would take my child. The first year I moved was hell. Ultimately, I got therapy and decided to get better for my daughter. I was also developing a good connection with Carlos, who was a local resident. He was the reason I moved to the county. Carlos loved my daughter a lot, and they quickly formed a great bond. So I was sure that the relationship would work out. Jenny did find out about Carlos and tried to call me a cheating witch. I'm sure you have been cheating. I will never let you live in peace. I'll bring Lily back to me. Just wait. Jenny, I have a restraining order against you. I don't want to do this, but you have left me no choice. If you really love Lily, you should get therapy and get better for her. Don't tell me what to do, Scarlett. I don't need therapy. I only want my baby Lily back. I only want my baby Lily back. One day, I will take her away from you. Then all you will do is cry. That one phone call was enough to send me into a spiral again. Carlos and my therapist had a tough time soothing my fears. My paranoia skyrocketed again. My world got dark. Somehow, I managed to deal with the situation and kept all these conversations as evidence. Thankfully, with her horrible behavior, I was able to get restraining orders renewed every time they expired. My solace was in the fact that Jenny never knew my new address. For the next few years, things went pretty well for me. I was slowly starting to cope with my mental health problems and tackled Jenny at the same time. I can't begin to tell you just how many phone numbers I had changed. When Lily was 6, I married Carlos and began my life with him. Devin and his girlfriend turned fiancé were invited, but Jenny was strictly not allowed. When Devin went home from my wedding, he did call me about Jenny. Scarlett, Mom found out about your wedding. I think one of your friends posted a picture. She saw it. She's not happy about this. What do I do? Devin, I'm tired of running away from Jenny. Even after years of filing a restraining order, she keeps harassing me. I'm exhausted. Stay strong, Scarlett. I'm doing my best to handle her. I think her marriage and my engagement have given her fresh ideas. I'm afraid she will do something stupid. Don't worry, Devin. I'll be on the watch out. I'm not that naive girl anymore. Jenny can plan as much as she wants. I won't let her take Lily, and I was adamant to protect my child. I quickly ordered high-security cameras and installed them all around the house. I also briefed Lily's school and babysitter about Jenny so that she can't cook up weird stories. Carlos was with me through it all. Years of therapy helped me deal with the situation better. While the old me would panic and become paranoid, the new me stayed calm and made plans. I was seriously praying to God that Jenny doesn't pull any stunts this time. I won't let her get away with her antics. Jenny's last crazy episode happened very soon. That morning, I was at my office pulling an overtime shift. Suddenly, I was surprised by a call from Devin. To be honest, I had no idea why he would call me at work. For some reason, my stomach was in knots as I picked up the phone. Devin sounded panicked and said, "Scarlett, you have to listen to me. This is serious. Mom just left me a message that she's bringing back Lily. I know you will never allow that. I'm afraid she will do something stupid." What the hell, Devin? I never gave her permission to take Lily. Hell, we have a restraining order against her. I think Mom is planning to kidnap Lily and bring her to my house. I've tried to change her mind, but I'm afraid she will run away with her if I push her too much. You need to stop her before she takes Lily. Thank you for telling me, Devin. I have no idea why Jenny still hasn't got the hint. Her behavior keeps escalating. She is adamant that Lily should stay with me. Mom is still obsessed with having me replace Daniel as her dad, but she's being very unreasonable. I know she needs help, but she refuses to go to therapy. I'm sorry to say this, Devin, but this time I don't think I can forgive her if she really tries to kidnap my daughter. I will be sending her to jail. Devin said that he understood my stance and why I would do this. He promised to be in touch in case something went wrong. Meanwhile, I started to plan a trap for Jenny. I knew that even if I left work right now, I wouldn't be able to reach home on time. So I picked up my phone and made a call. Then I simply sat back and waited for Jenny to show up. I had a very small hope in my heart that Jenny wouldn't be this crazy. Well, it turns out she is truly crazy. My house has security cameras covering the entire place, so I was able to watch everything while driving back home with a friend. As I watched Lily play on the lawn, I spotted Jenny making an entrance. Guys, Jenny actually tried to take my daughter. I was absolutely enraged by her behavior. Even after what happened, she wanted to ignore the court and take my child. She did it in the afternoon, knowing that I wouldn't be home. However, she didn't know one thing about my life. Carlos and I had gotten married 6 months ago, and just inside the house, Lily's new stepfather was watching everything. As soon as Jenny snatched up Lily, she cried out for Carlos, and immediately he came and blocked the front door. Through the security camera, I could see that Jenny went completely white as a ghost. Then her jaw dropped. My daughter fought off her arms and ran straight to Carlos. There was one thing she didn't know about the new man in my life. Carlos was a police officer. To be precise, he was the sheriff of our county. Jenny just took one look at him, and her jaw dropped, specifically because he was still in his police uniform. He was just back from work and spending time with my daughter before I came home. The call I made from the office was to Carlos. He is the one who picked up my daughter from school and stayed home till I came back. Jenny stupidly thought that I would leave my daughter unsupervised. Instead, she found a living and breathing cop stationed at my house. I heard them say, "What are you doing here, Jenny? I know you are Scarlett's mother-in-law. I'm interested to know what brings you here." "I'm here for my grandbaby. It's time she spends time with me." "Who the hell are you, and where is my grandbaby?" "Well, first of all, you are not supposed to be in this house, and I also know that you don't have any visitation rights with Scarlett's daughter. I would suggest you tell me your intentions since there are cameras in the house." "Who the hell are you? Why are you in this house around my granddaughter? You're not supposed to be here." "I am not an unknown man. I'm her stepfather, and I have full rights to be here." "You are not supposed to be here since you have trespassed into my house, tried to kidnap Lily, and violated restraining orders. I have already called my mates to come and arrest you." No, you cannot arrest me. I'm not doing something wrong. My granddaughter belongs to me and Dean. I won't let Scarlett let a stranger raise Daniel's daughter. Only Devin is fit to be her dad. Listen to me, Jenny. You need to step away from this house right now. The cops will come and arrest you if I don't do it myself. Jenny kept arguing with Carlos while I hurried home to them. My friend from work drove me to my house. While I was watching the confrontation, Carlos kept warning Jenny that she would face some serious charges if she didn't leave. Well, Jenny decided to be a martyr and continued to try and argue with him. As soon as I reached the house, Jenny started to shout at me. She said, "You witch, you intentionally married a cop so that you can take away my granddaughter. This is all you're planning. I always knew you were a total witch." "Calm down, Jenny. You keep forgetting the fact that my cop husband is right in this house. Believe it or not, he will arrest you if you keep harassing us. I won't go down so easily. I'll tell everyone that you were cheating with Carlos before Daniel died. I will ruin your reputation and take Lily." "Carlos, you can add harassment and slander to Jenny's list of offenses now. Looks like she won't stop." Just at that moment, the rest of the cops arrived. They came inside the house and spoke to Carlos about the situation. When Carlos and I gave our statements, Jenny threw another fit. She started to scream and cry about how unfair and selfish we were being. She said, "You are a vile woman, Scarlett. You want to keep me away from Lily. You have no respect for Daniel's memories. Why can't you just give Devin my granddaughter? He's the only one who should be her dad. Now, you have some serious audacity coming to my house and trying to take my daughter away. What makes you think I will ever allow you near her again? She is my granddaughter. I have the right to decide who raises her. The courts are wrong. I deserve to be with Lily." Jenny took that opportunity to attack me again. Yes, this crazy lady tried to assault me in front of my cop husband and friends. She was immediately restrained, and Carlos looked extremely pissed off. He spoke with his colleagues, and in a few seconds, Jenny was taken away in cuffs. She did try to fight those officers, and that added another offense to her already extensive criminal record. She was taken away, but not before she could throw some insanely inappropriate comments towards me and my husband. After everything happened, I took some time off work to be with my daughter. She was still traumatized by everything, especially by the way Jenny tried to grab her and run. Even I am exhausted from dealing with Jenny and had a hard time balancing everything. Carlos has been a huge support to both me and Lily. Lily has even started to call him dad. She does know about Daniel, but she also sees Carlos as a father. I'm so happy that my little girl is finally starting to have a normal life. Devin and I talked in detail about what went down. He did apologize for his mother's behavior multiple times. I assured him that none of this is his fault and he shouldn't take Jenny's blame. He was a great uncle to Lily and tried to replace Daniel. Devin continues to visit us every week to spend time with Lily and my family. He has since uninvited Jenny from his wedding and is planning to go no contact with her. Speaking of Jenny, she will be spending time in jail by now. She has managed to work towards an impressive list of charges that keeps getting worse. From what Carlos has told me, she will likely face fines along with a short prison sentence. She's tried her best to turn the judge against us, but even the lawyer knows she's a lost cause. We're still waiting for the final hearing, so I can't share all the details of the court proceedings. However, it looks like me, Carlos, and Lily will finally have some peace away from my crazy ex-mother-in-law.